Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. We are so excited. We have Illinois author Janet Nolan here with her new picture book. It's called 7.5 Tons of Steel, an absolutely beautiful story to use for children of all ages and adults about steel that came from the Twin Towers and was put into the bow of the USS New York. Well, Janet, welcome back to Naperville and Anderson's.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh my God, it's so great to have you here. I want to tell you, this book, besides being so extremely moving, it really is, I mean, for kids who weren't born when 9/11 happened, this book will be perfect to explain it, but in a much more gentler way, but to explain everything, but also the hope and the resiliency of what happened after 9/11 through this ship and the whole story that you put behind this. So I know it's been out since August 1st.
Yes.
So I would love to know, what are you hearing from everybody? And I've been just hearing great things from people who have picked up the book, but also, you know, what are you hearing from kids or even educators? And I know the school year has just started, but what are you hearing out there about the book?
I'm hearing, fortunately, a lot of really positive things. Yeah. I'm hearing a lot from adults that what they are open to is they're telling me their stories. So it's really bringing it up for a lot of people. So it becomes very cathartic when people talk to me about the book. They really want to talk about their story, where they were on 9/11, what happened to them on 9/11. And it seems to be very powerful. And because the book is about going forward, it's not a get stuck kind of a story.
Right. And there's been several other picture books that tried to deal with this, but this one by far surpasses what I've seen.
Thank you.
And I think, good for so many ages, but one that we will be going to again and again when we talk about this. So you've written picture books before. You have 4 other books that are out in the world, and nonfiction and fiction.
Yes.
So I want to know how this book was different for you, because I think it must have been a lot more emotional, and just wondering how it was different from your 4 previous picture books.
Well, no pressure writing about 9/11. No pressure to get it right.
Right, exactly.
There was that.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it was right. So, and I wanted to honor it in a moving and powerful way.
Right.
And what made the writing of this book so different for me was I was able to watch, because everything's online now, so I was able to watch so many interviews, so many videos, so many news clips, and I was able to hear so many people's personal stories about people who worked on the ship, people who delayed retirement so they can continue to build and work on this ship, people who were in the military and they wanted a transfer so that they could serve on their ship, and they serve in honor of someone that they lost. Yeah. So the ship is a living testament to so many people in so many ways. Yeah. And that, I wanted to make sure I was able to embody that and do that honorably.
And you really did. The words are so powerful in this book, and we'll talk about the illustrations that go along with this. So where did the seed start to grow for this story? And I know the story, but tell us where that seed, or what you first heard that go, I think I can tell a story with this.
I was in my car listening to the radio, and I heard about this beam, that a beam had been used in building the USS New York, that it was in the bow of a ship. And right away, I was like, that's pretty powerful in and of itself, but it's the bow, and that's the part that first cuts the water, that goes forward. And of course my first thought was not, I'm going to go home and write a book. It was just that sort of wow factor of, that's really powerful, that's really moving, and it stayed with me, and I kept thinking about it, and through there the story grew. Yeah. But I just heard about it in the radio.
Wow. So I'd like to know the research. You mentioned you did a lot of online research, but did you interview anyone in person? Have you been to the ship? Have you interviewed any people from the foundry or from the shipyard? I mean, there could have been, and I know you've talked to a lot of people, and putting that essence of what it felt like on that day and the aftermath.
I have not been on the ship, though that's my dream.
Well, you have to. You have to get on that ship.
I really want to get on the ship. I started the research by talking to a man that was very involved in the very first decision to use metal from the World Trade Center towers and building this ship. And that he was involved in getting it to the mayor then of New York, who then got it and gifted it to the Navy. So I was very involved, and I've had an ongoing conversation with him throughout the process. And I've talked to a lot of retired military. Specifically, no, not anyone from the foundry or from the shipbuilding yard. I haven't spoken with them personally, but there are so many interviews online that I feel like I have.
Right, sure.
And I've done so much research and read so many news articles about the process.
Yeah. You know, I was looking at your website, and it would be great if you could post some of those people you talked to, or even some of the videos, for kids to have further information.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because I think that's just, people want to express their feelings, and especially about something like this that really helped heal, or at least a little bit help heal what happened. But I want to know, you know, how did you make this so sensitive? And considering it's perfect for that second, third grader, but then it's also great for middle schoolers, and as you say, adults, the reaction to this. So how did you make sure that you made it sensitive enough, and to keep out the horrors of what happened in New York and the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania?
I think I chose to stay really close to the beam. I stayed really close to the metal, and by doing that, I followed the metal's journey, and from New York to the foundry to the shipbuilding yard to the ship. So I really stayed close to that beam, and yeah, there's all this other stuff out there around it, but this book is really tells the journey of a piece of metal. And by doing that, I think I was able to emotionally have a center and stay close to that center.
Yeah. So you know, sitting down to write the words for a picture book, and a story like this, there's so many pieces, so many elements, so many stories. Was it hard to sort of whittle it down, sort of cipher it down to just that core of what you decided? I mean, did you have to eliminate a lot of things that you originally thought for the story?
Yeah, I did. I mean, one of the most fascinating things that I found it really interesting is the life cycle of a ship. And there's all this magistry, and there's all this just lore about the keel laying and the christening and the commissioning and the decommissioning. So ships have a life cycle and a lot of sort of events surrounding them, and that is something that I wasn't able to include at all. So a lot of the sort of military things that I found I was not able to include, and I found them very, very interesting. Things about the Navy and how ships are honored.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what do you think was the most surprising piece of information or research that you did? That's something you just had no clue that you would discover this little piece?
Oh, that's a hard question. I guess I found the most fascinating or most interesting is the honor in which people serve. We say that people serve with honor,
right.
But on this ship they serve with another level or a deeper level of honor, and in service too. And that's what struck me. It wasn't just about point A to point B. It was this really heartfelt emotions that are on everything on that ship is in tribute to 9/11 in New York.
Right. So tell us what the beam, or what it says on the ship. The quote that's on there.
Well, the ship's motto is strength through sacrifice, never forget.
Right, which is so wonderful. So the shipyard down in Louisiana, also the foundry. I'm sure the reverence was there too for those people who worked at the foundry and then at the shipyard. And I can't imagine that the pride, but then also to the ship, what it meant to them, but also to, they'd put the piece into the bow, but then Katrina.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother piece to this. But also too, can you tell us a little bit about what that ship meant to people that were struggling after Katrina hit, after that devastation?
So when Hurricane Katrina hit, so many of the shipbuilders lost their homes, and many were displaced. And the turnaround on these ships, it's not like they're built in a day. They're built in over a course of years.
Right.
So many were homeless and lost their home. And then they built a home for the shipbuilders called Camp Katrina, K&K, and gave them a place to live, food, home, and allowed them to continue to work. And they chose to continue to work. Many left, but many stayed and continued to build.
Right. I mean,
and to work.
And to be proud of this. And
yes.
after having suffered so much themselves, with Katrina. So the bow of the ship, the 7.5 tons that went into the bow, and what was the journey of the metal that came from the Twin Towers? Did it have a special journey or anything that went with that?
Well, it was shipped down with everything that I've read, it was treated with reverence. Everywhere it went, it was, people stopped, took a moment.
Right.
Here's the medal, here's a moment. They were cautious and respectful with this piece of metal. It was other pieces of metal that all went down, there was a beam and then there was some other metal. And then in the foundry, they heat it in this, there's pictures of it in the book.
Right.
They heat it to this incredible high heat. I think it's 2,800 something degrees.
Wow.
And then they pour it into a mold. So it's cast into this mold and it's so hot, it takes 4 days to cool down. And then from there, it went to the shipbuilding yard.
Yeah.
And there it was treated with reverence. And even when it was time to install it, they draped it in an American flag.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, the illustrator of this book,
Thomas
and,
Gonzalez.
Oh my gosh, the illustrations are absolutely stunning, and they accompany what you've written so beautifully. And the book starts with a couple of wordless spreads that are just really interesting. And I want to know, did you work with him in the process? I know you didn't meet him until just this past Book Expo America in Chicago.
Right.
But how did you work with him or give him a little? Was there correspondence between the two of you in the making of the book?
Not in the beginning, no. He worked really directly with the editor.
Okay.
So I didn't see a lot of the art until it was fairly well completed.
Yeah.
The silent beginning, which I think is stunning and beautiful, and if you look at the book, I think he wanted 6 pages and he has 3.
Yeah.
I think he wanted 6 and that's what it ended up being, is the 3. It sets the tone without language, and I think that's so appropriate because there are no words.
There aren't.
There are no words for what happened. And yet, by going through those early pages, you're in the right mindset, you're in the right place, so that when you start the book, you're there, you're where you need to be, and that's because of him. So that was beautiful and brilliant and amazing. And I think it's a gift to the book that he allows everyone to be in the right space to read the book.
Right. And he's illustrated another book for Peachtree, The 14 Cows for America, which is another sort of post 9/11 book about a Maasai tribe who their greatest possessions are their cows. And after they heard what happened to America, the true story of wanting to give their cows to America, so I think these books pair so well together. But just beautiful illustrations, and your words could not go better than with them.
Thank you.
But so I know when you were here in Naperville last, you went to see our memorial that we have, and we have a memorial to Navy Commander Dan Chanauer, who, as soon as what happened to the Twin Towers, he was at work trying to find out what happened, but then the planes hit the Pentagon and he was killed in there at the Pentagon. And we have a beam right here on the Riverwalk from the Twin Towers to a memorial to him and those who died there. So I just think this book means a lot to Naperville too, because we're talking about metal and the metal from this place, but also so much what it means, but it also means how strong America is. And I just think it's just, when I first read this book, it made me, the connection was just so strong. Yeah.
I went to see the beam that you have over by your Riverwalk, and the thing about metal is when you touch it, you can't bend it, you can't break it, you can hardly chip it. It is a really powerful, solid thing, a beam, and yet it can be transformed. It can be changed. Yeah. And to me, that's the beauty of life, is that we're all capable of transformation. And hopefully I've conveyed that as metal can be transformed, so can we.
Right. So, Jen, I know you do a lot of school presentations. You're going to be doing a lot for this book. Tell us about what you do when you talk to kids about writing, but also too about writing nonfiction like this, and also about writing fiction. But what is the kind of message that you give to kids about writing?
When I talk, specifically with kids, when I talk about nonfiction, we live in the digital age. We have access to an amazing amount of information, and we can all Google anything at any time and know something about something we may have known nothing about a few moments before. but what does that information mean? What does all this knowledge and facts mean if they're not in some sort of context? So to me, it's going deeper to find, well, I call it the heart of the story,
Right.
but to find what does the information, what do facts mean in a context, and what gives them resonance in our lives. And you can say, oh, a beam was used in building a ship. Well, that's a fact. That's interesting. But what does that really mean? So that's part of what I try and talk to students about, is because they have so much information in their lives, is trying to filter it down and to have some deeper meaning with that information.
Right.
And also I try and talk about the joy I find in research and the joy I find in learning. When I start to write a book, my first stop, I try not to Google, is always the children's library. I go to the children's library, and I always want to learn as a child learns. So I start with picture books and work my way up.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
I like that.
I
Yeah.
never start
That makes
at the
total
adult
sense.
level. I think on some level it informs my writing, that if I am writing for children and I learn as a child and gather information as a child, then that's what is the most salient, and that's
Yeah.
what sticks with me.
Yeah.
Plus, everything you ever want to know is in a picture book.
You know what? That is so true. And you know, when people get older, they sort of dismiss picture books, but they're so incredibly informative.
Yeah.
But it's the emotion and the joy and all those things that go into picture books.
Yeah.
That you don't mind reading them over and over and over again. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Right. So you know what? The one thing I loved about the book, in the back of the book, was the factual stuff that you told about the ship's crest, and then also just the details of this huge ship. And the day that it was launched, it was the biggest thing on the ocean that day. But tell
biggest thing on the earth.
Earth. The
Yes.
biggest thing on the earth. I
Yes.
mean, that's just incredible. So tell us a little bit about the facts of the ship and maybe the crest, which I think is really
Well,
incredible.
it has so much, each element of that crest relates to something. So it's
Right.
in the book. And the colors mean something, the symbolism, everything in that crest has really a deeper meaning. And the other part about the ship, when it was done, it was on dry land. So they had to get it into the water.
can't imagine.
I think it took them 12 hours, something like that, of moving it on these skids for off the land and into the water.
Wow. Your publisher, Peachtree, which
Peachtree.
is new. You're a new publisher for you. How has the experience been switching publishers and their support for this book?
They're amazing. They're amazing. I loved working with Peachtree. They're very accessible. They're very gracious. My editor, Kathy Landwehr, is a genius, so she was really, really helpful in helping me fine-tune the language and making sure that every word, every sentence, every paragraph was just the way it needed to be. So she was amazing to work with, and so far through the whole process. And then just that they picked Tom Gonzalez, I couldn't have been happier with that.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I know you're a member of SCBWI, which is the society, the Society for Children's Books Writers and Illustrators, also national. Tell us a little bit about that organization, because a lot of people don't know that it exists, and what it does for you as an author, or even if you're an illustrator.
Yeah, author or illustrator.
Right.
SCBWI is a gift to all writers.
Yeah.
Beginning, middle, and no matter where you're at in your career, it's a gift because it's a community of people who care about making sure that the best books are out there for children. And who deserves them better than children? I mean, they deserve the best books. They deserve the very best. So it's an international organization, national, state, and local. So even, where you live, no matter where you live, there's a SCBWI organization for you that you can take part in. They have workshops, conferences, all kinds of events, critique groups, meetings, and it's just a way to find like-minded people who love children's literature.
And I went to the last one. There was a regional one here last spring. I think it was last spring. And I'm just amazed at when you guys get together. It's like old home week. Everyone's best friends, and they just are so glad to see there. But it's also, it's a sharing of the successes and just helping each other out, which I find just so incredible. And I only see that in the world of children's books, not as much with adult writing.
If you want to meet nice people, just in general, go to a children's literature event because they're just the nicest, most gracious, most helpful, supportive people.
So the kids' side is much friendlier side of publishing. Let's put it that way. So I wanted to ask you, what is your earliest recollection of, boy, I want to grow up to be a writer? And do you remember when you were young, or maybe something that you wrote that you were really proud of when you were young?
I don't think I ever, as a child, viewed myself as a writer. That was not anything I saw myself as.
Yeah.
Though I got a lot of great feedback on the letters I wrote, and I'm a big proponent of letter writing to this day. I think that that's a really good way to communicate, and not email, letter.
The snail mail. It's
Yes.
a lost art. We need to have it come back.
Yeah,
right?
so I'm a big proponent of, and I'm a really big proponent of thank you notes, because I think thank you notes are a wonderful way to say thank you to anyone for anything.
Right.
So I believe in that. So I've always been a writer, and more importantly, I've always been a reader.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd be a writer without being a reader, and I've been a reader all my life. Didn't really see myself as a writer. Well, this is kind of goofy, but I have a master's in urban planning and policy, and I was working in the solid waste field. And my boss asked me to write a brochure for children on a recycling plan, which I did. And then I went home and for some reason wrote this ridiculous little story about a recycled pink bubble bath bottle. And it was so fun, so I wrote another story, and I really considered it the equivalent of singing in the shower. Like, this is really fun. I'm having fun. But this is so silly, and who cares, and no one's ever going to see this, so what difference does it make?
Yeah.
And I kept writing these stories, and one led to another, and I found SCBWI, and I joined, and I kept writing, and then I tried sending, and rejected, and I got better, and here I am. But that's where it came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's such an interesting way you came up. I think you should write that book, though. I mean, make it a book about, because everybody, it's such an important topic for kids. So I like the pink
I
bottle,
do too.
Bottle.
Yeah, I've always liked it. Patty Petunia was her name.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I think you should do that for sure. So, this book I look at, it's perfect for any school library, classroom library, or even a home library. And I think because it's a great combination of the emotion. It's a piece of nonfiction, but you include more emotion and feeling in this, and because it fills in some of those gaps that just pure facts that do. So, the balance, I think you caught it very well, but I see this as such a great book that it should be on every shelf.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. What do you hope that readers will take away from this? Whether you're an adult, whether you're a 7th or 8th grader, or whether you're in 2nd or 3rd,
That things happen. Bad things happen. They do. And but I think as people, we need to go forward with grieving and with acknowledgement, and not just rush forward, but we need to go forward, and we need to be hopeful. We always need to be hopeful, right. No matter what. I think that is the most important, that we're hopeful. And to me, this ship is a statement of hope.
So tell us about the USS New York. Where is it now? Where is it stationed? And it did come back to the city for the 10th memorial about 9/11, and it came into the harbor and all those things and stopped, by where the Twin Towers had stood, and then, of course, the Statue of Liberty and all those types of things. So it's still in active duty and all that. So tell us a little bit about the ship now. And do you ever hear from anybody that's serving on that ship?
Well, I don't individually. I mean, I've called a few times, and talked to people who answer the phone.
Right.
They have a 24, you can call the ship at any time and talk to someone
Wow.
who answers. And I'm there. I'm on Facebook. They have a Facebook page, so I'm on their Facebook page. So I kind of keep up with the ship.
Yeah.
Where it is right now, I'm not sure. Sometimes they let you know where they are, and sometimes you don't know where they are.
Right.
So I don't know where they are right now. Yeah. But they pretty much circumnavigate the globe.
Wow.
Yeah, so they go all over.
So I would imagine that any person in the Navy who serves on that ship, it's got to be a proud place to serve. Right?
I would think so.
So what are you working on now? What's next?
Oh, I'm working on some more nonfiction.
Okay.
Picture books.
Okay.
I've got a couple out with editors, so fingers crossed, hopeful. We'll see what happens.
All
right. And so I'm still writing, and I want to always be writing, because I think it's a way of giving, it's a way of living, and it's a way of looking at the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to come back the next book. Okay. So I end these interviews with a little quiz. So you know all the answers.
Okay.
And like you said, I believe that any true author worth their salt is a huge reader, because I don't think you can be without the other. And so all these questions are about what you love to read. So,
Okay.
Okay. So Favorite book when you were a child?
Well, I love The Outsiders.
Oh, 50 years this year.
So
Can you
that would
believe
be
that?
it. Yeah, I probably read that book. I loved that, and I loved A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
What about an Evangelist? Any book that you absolutely love that you couldn't tell enough people they had to read it?
I would go back to those two. The
Those two.
Outsiders, yes, I think that those are my touchstone books, and I
Okay,
really
that's so
believe in them.
cool.
Yes, I would say that. They're formative. They help you grow up. They help you see the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this would be the same answer for this. Is that the book that helped you set you on a path to be a writer?
I would say every book I've ever read,
Okay,
because I
yeah.
don't think there's one. I don't think that there is. I think that to be a writer, to read is to be open to every other author,
Right.
and I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And we've all done this, so you can admit to it or not. A classic you may have faked reading.
Oh, you mean like I've never read it?
You read, but maybe you faked reading it, or maybe it was for school or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, like A Tale of Two Cities or
Or
something?
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Would that be the one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
But you probably know the first line, like most of us do. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. How about the last book you gave as a gift?
Oh, I gave Lucy, because the little
Oh.
baby that was here today,
Okay.
her name is Lucille, and they're calling her Lucy. So I just bought
Oh.
Lucy.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah. So
fantastic.
that would be, I mean, she's
yeah.
just born.
Yeah. And I know your kids are grown now, but do you remember books that you used to read over and over and over again?
Is it good? Jane Yolen's Goodnight Moon.
Oh, or Owl Moon?
Owl Moon.
Owl Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owl
Oh,
Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a beautiful
Yeah.
book. and
I
illustration.
just loved reading that to them. I loved it.
Yeah, that is a beautiful book. And what are you reading now? Anything you've read recently that you've
I'm
really
reading A
enjoyed?
Man Called Ove right now.
Oh yeah, that's such a fun book. It's
Yeah,
such a
so
sweet
that's what
book.
I'm just getting through right
Yeah,
now.
Great.
Yeah.
Janet, thank you so much for sitting down with me, and congratulations for 7.5 tons of steel.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful book.
Thank you.
Great conversation about writing with Illinois author Janet Nolan about her brand new nonfiction picture book. It's called 7.5 Tons of Steel, about the USS New York and the metal that came from the Twin Towers that is in the bow of this ship. Thanks for joining me on Authors Revealed.